Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and we're continuing on this series about angler profiles and how the fishing business markets to you and to your preferences. And we've covered quite a bit so far. There's only a few to go. And I'm going to ask today if you're the adventurous angler. That's another profile that's been created in this series. The series was published by Southwick Associates. They're out of Florida. It was done for the American Sports Fishers Association. And they published profiles. They called them personas. And their personas showed different categories of anglers and their tendencies and how you would market to them, or even if you would market to them. It's kind of an interesting set. And we've looked at the traditional angler. And if you look at my business card and my logo, I guess that's an indication of what a traditional angler would be, looking to pass a tradition down. Trying to make sure that there's conservation, preservation, that the species are protected, working closely with Fish and Game and things like that to ensure that fishing remains a viable sport, and they take the sport very seriously. And of course then we looked at profiles like the friendly angler who's into it more as an enjoyment for the outdoors. We've looked at the consumptive angler who's interested more in fish as a food source. We've looked at the occasional angler who's out there somewhat as a social, but when they're out there trying to do their best, trying to land trophy fish and the like. And we've looked at how those personas, as this survey suggests, fits with what and where they're buying, when they're buying, how much they're spending, and how you would particularly sell to those subgroups. Well, today we're going to look at yet another one. But before we do that, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel, all law enforcement, EMT, medical staffing, people in the supply chains, and all that are working very hard to keep us safe during this pandemic. We're fortunate enough here to have stayed safe, but of course it has put a kink in everybody's schedules in terms of what we're trying to do and how we do those things. So thank you to all of you that are protecting us and trying to restore us to health if we've contacted with this disease. Really do appreciate your efforts. So today we're looking at the adventurous angler, and I'll ask you, are you the adventurous angler? The adventurous angler is a little bit different. It's the second largest group of these personas. At about 17 to 18% of the people would be classified in this group. So you have a large group of traditional anglers, and then this would be the second group, the adventurous angler. And it takes about 17 to 18% of all of the anglers surveyed would be in this group. This group, the adventurous angler, is motivated to fish by the thrill and the challenge of the fishing, and also to be active outdoors. They're kind of fascinated by fish themselves, and they're trying to learn a lot about the species' habits in order to boost their fishing success. And this is the group that is most likely to fish from a powered or a non-powered vessel. And the non-powered, of course, would be things like canoes and kayaks and the like. And they certainly have tendencies to consider themselves experienced or above in terms of how they fish from an intermediate level. And we'll go over some of those characteristics. So one of them is the average age is 42. That's less than the average angler. And this one has probably the lowest participation from a female percentage, with only about 40% classifying themselves as an adventure angler. They are slightly higher in income and slightly higher in education. They classify themselves higher than average in the experience level. And this is the one that buys from the outdoor specialty shop and spends a lot of time looking at websites. So you kind of see the display in front of me, just a couple of pages ripped from some magazines, but they're the ones that are being advertised to from travel and tourism. And so, here's one from Marathon, Florida, another one from the Bahamas. They're the ones that are being sold the upper end gear that will try to convince you that it's going to make a difference in terms of your catch rates and your ability to land the big fish. They're the ones that a lot of the articles inside of magazines like Bassmaster and Saltwater Angler or Sportsman and the like, they're the ones that those articles are kind of tempered towards. Where to go, what time of season to go, where the big fish are, what the lakes are to go catch the bass, what time of year, what's the techniques that you use. That's kind of what's being sold into this group. So let's look at this group a little bit more in detail. First and foremost, they were introduced by family and friends. That's an ongoing theme here. Almost all of the time you see that. So if you're interested in passing fishing on to additional generations, or if you're looking at trying to grow a business, well, families and friends should be your target. Almost 95% of this group expect to go fishing next year. That's the highest of any of them that have been surveyed. And when you look at this, in terms of deciding what makes a good fishing experience, other than some of the things we've heard in other profiles, like enjoying the outdoors and having a relaxing time, one of the things that is interesting to this group is that have a high percentage of them classifying good fishing as catching the species they're targeting and improving their fishing technique. So these are the ones that are going to show up at fishing expos. They're going to work with guides, and they're going to pursue trophy fish. So if you're the guy wondering who's fishing for the sailfish or the marlin or the tuna or that kind of thing, typically you're going to find them in this particular group. So that targeted species versus the opportunity to catch the big fish, the beauty of the surroundings and the abundance of fish are all keys to how they classify their angling persona, and it's how they're advertised too, right? You can just see the one from Marathon, Florida, in an idyllic situation with a nice bonefish with beautiful surroundings. Same idea with the Bahamas, and that they're really appealing to those kinds of tendencies. If you look at what's competing for their hobby, well, they are a younger set, so family obligations and work obligations are going to compete, as well as other outdoor recreation activities. And I think those other activities, we've talked about this before, but if you're in the Northeast or the Midwest and you have those harsh winters, well, you're probably not fishing, and you probably are an outdoor enthusiast, and I'm sure that those other activities competing for you at that time probably relate to wintertime activities outdoors. If you look at why they didn't go fishing at least once, a good amount of time I didn't have anybody to go with, or wasn't sure where to go, but surprisingly didn't have enough money. So these clearly do fit that profile of they're going to travel to catch big fish, and of course that travel and tourism dollar is expensive, and that's certainly going to be a reason why they may have to delay a trip, particularly in something like this with the pandemic going on. And what will get them to go more often? Well, interestingly enough, of course, always a friend or family's invitation is going to be up there, but this one ranks the highest in fishing instruction to improve my knowledge and methods, and the information and insight from local fishing experts. So there's a different bend there than let's just make this social, let's go camping and throw a rod in the car, that kind of a thing. 67% of them went fishing in the past year, and more than 50% of this population went 21 days or more. That's quite a level of participation compared to the other groups in this survey. From a saltwater and a freshwater, this is the one that tilts a little bit more towards the saltwater, above the average in that profile. And a lot of them are fishing live bait, which would kind of indicate trophy fishing in saltwater as well. Interestingly enough, on the freshwater, it's almost all bass, and you can see I have a Bassmaster publication back there, but certainly the bass is targeted species there, followed secondly by what is rated the highest among all of the groups, and that is trout. And when you think about it, if you go to Field and Stream or Outdoor Life or some of the other magazines or online publications and that, they're always targeting mountain trout and in virgin rivers and things like that. Well, trout here rates the highest of any of the groups that did rate themselves within the Adventure Angler group. And within saltwater, there's nothing significantly different, but there is a good preponderance that are going for striped bass and yellowtail, tuna, and other saltwater species. So that kind of lines up. From a selling standpoint, which is kind of what this has been all about, right? Who's buying what, where, and how. Almost 70% of these folks bought something in the last year. And within that group, over 40% of these folks spent $500 or more. So this is a rather good target for the fishing business. And as you go into the fishing magazines, the blogs, the manufacturers' websites, online stores, or even in the current places like the Cabela's, the Bass, the Dick's, and the like, these are the ones that they're going to market the upper end equipment to, and they're going to get more specific in terms of the baits and the lures and the lines and things like that. So it's rather affluent. They're not afraid to spend. They go on the extended trips. They're kind of looking for the trophy fish or the thrill of fishing, and they're going to buy the equipment that's going to give them the best level of success. Clearly, 6 out of 10 buy from an outdoor specialty store like a Bass Pro's or a Cabela's, and 50% buy from the local bait and tackle shop. So much different than what we've seen in some of the others, where they're catalog shopping or they're online browsing or they're eBaying, or the mass merchant kind of a guy like a Walmart and that. And interestingly enough, there is a good population of these folks that buy from fishing expos. So if you're wondering who's bringing the dollars to those fishing expos, this is the group. If you look at their entertainment and media habits, it's a little bit different. Almost 50% of them are on websites, so I suspect some of the folks that are viewing here are adventure anglers. They look at the blogs, the online magazines, and the like. 50% of these make up the audiences for the fishing shows that are on television, and a lot of folks participate in social media, so I'm not quite sure if I'm categorized in social media or websites, but regardless, they seek a lot of information, and judging from some of the questions I get in my comments all the time about, is this reel any good, what's the ideal usage for this, max drag, what kind of line should I put on it? Those, I'm sure, are being asked by folks that classify themselves as adventure anglers. And then if you look at what kind of websites within that they're looking on, it's a lot of online magazines, and it's websites for manufacturers and retailers. So clearly doing a lot of research about the equipment that they're trying to purchase. This group, if you look at influencers, this group is largely influenced by travel and tourism, much more so than anybody else. So those ads for the Bahamas and Marathon in the Keys and some of the things like that are really targeted at these folks. State game and public agencies and commissions provide them a lot of influence. Online forums and blogs, local clubs and organization rates very high here. The outdoor retailers who are selling them the stuff become consultants in this, and they certainly are influencers, and lesser so in some of the other ones like friends and family, kind of telling them where to buy and what to buy at that group. So the question is, are you an adventure angler? Are you in it for the thrill of the fish? Are you in it to learn more on how to catch those big fish? Are you planning your fishing trips or your vacations around fishing? And when you do plan those vacations, are you targeting areas that are known areas for the big fish or for the trophy fish? That's kind of how it fits your profile. And I'm sure if you're in that profile, a lot of people are trying to talk to you in the ads on those fishing shows, on the ads that show up on websites, and on the ads in print media and the like. So maybe this is you. Maybe you aren't considering yourself a consumptive angler, or an occasional angler, or a traditional angler. but this one better fits your profile. If it does, that's great. If not, well, we still got another one to go. So so hang in there, keep watching, and we'll wrap this up with the next profile to come in a few days. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thanks for watching.